Yeah, thanks for that, Madani. I was going to say, I'd like to say a big thank you to Michael Apps and also to the ever handsome chairman, Mr. Patch, who's also my board member, for today putting this event on, and I think it's been a great event so far. So I'm here to talk about in 10 minutes the electric bus and the future of electric bus in Asia. So we've been doing work with MAI, and it's been very exciting. I think the technology changes in the next decade are going to be phenomenal. So we're just at the cusp of that. There's a lot of way to go, but it is exciting. So TAG, who are we? So TAG is one of Australia's largest private mass transport operators in Australia. We actually do kind of three things. We do bus design, engineering and manufacturing. We also do urban design for networks and mode integration for private clients as well as government agencies, and also do network operations and asset maintenance as a group. So fairly diverse along the top east coast of Australia. So Electric Bus Project. Well, the e-bus project is an international research project that's co-funded by the Malaysian government and Australian governments, and also involves a number of businesses from across both countries. The partnership at the moment with ourselves is with Swinburne University, Auto CSC, which is a division of the CSIRO, and also MAI, which is Madani, the CEO here, looking at basically producing electric vehicles for trials in Malaysia, but also in Australia going forward. Now the benefits. Why invest in electric buses is smart? Well, you've no doubt we're going to hear from speakers today. We'll go into the details of why, but really it's about emissions. And if you look at a lot of Asian countries especially, they are very small on land mass. You saw Singapore, thousands of vehicles on a very, very tiny surface area. With that, emissions becomes a big problem in these countries. So if you look at the average Australian urban bus, produces about 73.5 tonnes of emissions a year. Now, as we know, we moved to Euro 5 and Euro 6 is coming. The particulates out of the exhaust are very, very small. There is some research that as they get this small, they can pass through what you call membranes on your lungs and also your brain. There's people suggesting it could have long-term harmful effects. The research is still out yet. But as countries, look at things like peak oil, others are debating that going forward, but it's environment and health benefits that are really going to start driving electric buses and uptake of different fuel technologies. The other thing that's really impressive about it is actually the whole drivetrain is very, very different. This became really obvious to me as I got more involved in the project. If you compare the combustion engine, it's got thousands of moving parts along the whole drivetrain. You compare that to an electric bus, it's only got a matter of 10 or so moving parts. It's a huge difference. This is going to have a massive impact on the supply chain industry. And a good example is Tesla. So you've got the OEM, which is a manufacturer. You've got Tier 1 and Tier 2, they call it. Tier 2 and Tier 3 are going to face some problems, I think, disruptions over the next decade as the parts supply chain gets reduced dramatically. As the uptake of electric vehicles go up, they'll have to adopt and change for that. But the electric drivetrain is very, very unique. In terms of maintenance costs, theories out there, and what we're looking at is roughly about 80% cheaper to maintain an electric bus versus a diesel bus. And you start looking at whole life costs, it starts putting up a whole new equation. Wow, is this technology going to actually help improve the efficiencies of public transport and costings? I'd say absolutely yes. However, can it get the range of a diesel bus? No. No, we're the first one to tell you that. Now, at the moment, a lot of the buses they're trialling in Europe, especially up in the Northern Hemisphere, let's look at the humidity, let's look at the temperature, let's look at air conditioning. It's not that hot. But if you look at Malaysia, Singapore, top end of Australia, we're talking 30 plus degree temperatures, 95% humidity. The power that's required from the air conditioning unit to keep that bus cool is quite immense. So at the moment, the technology is catching up. The battery technology has improved greatly. Let's look at the mobile phone, for example. Nobody's talked about mobile phone technology, but the power of the phone that's powered off your battery can last a full day is more powerful than the first computer that took up a whole floor. And so that's how technology moves and evolves. So to me, the battery technology packs you're looking at today are quite immense. Places like Stanford University are producing batteries now, or in laboratory, out of actually salt water, which is at the moment has a charging capacity improvement of about 1,000% over lithium batteries so far. So there's lots of universities out there that are pushing ahead, and researchers that are pushing technology to a whole new sphere. That's why next, to me, decade is very exciting. There's no compromise in customer capacity. You've still got the same size vehicles out there. You can make these smaller or bigger. A lot of the vehicles that are trialling now are smaller than the rigid bus, but the one we're trialling is a rigid bus, and we're trying to maximise the capacity of that and get the journey, the kilometres up to 400 k's out of it before a charge is required. The other thing is they're very, very quiet. When we got the bus out of the workshop, you couldn't hear it apart from the road noise of the tyres. And anything under 10 k's an hour, you can't hear it. It's like whispering death. It's just super, super silent, which is fantastic for the commuters and for the public at large when these buses are being moving forward. Now, the battery control systems. This is what a lot of the technology is driven by software. Now, the duty cycle mapping, what does that really mean? Well, it's basically how you're extracting the energy from the vehicle. Now, there's things on there called supercapacitors. So when the vehicle's braking, which as you know, during mass transit with buses, lots of stops and starting, the supercapacitors store the electric energy. Now, the computer says, do I actually take that energy out now and use it to push the vehicle forward, what it can do? Or do I take that energy out and push it to the batteries and charge them? Do I take that energy out and help with the power steering? Do I take that energy out and start using it for the air conditioning? All that has to be going through thousands of decisions are made every second. Now, if you get that wrong, you can lose hours on those batteries. And so that's where a lot of the research goes into more than I thought was the software development. And so how do you extract that energy out of it and store it back in the battery and maximise your battery usage? And that comes back to your control systems, your powertrains. There's 4 engines involved. And basically the engines we're using with ZF are more powerful than an Abrams tank in terms of what it can push out. So they're very impressive in terms of the torque that you get out of these vehicles. You've got the energy storage system with the batteries, but as you design these vehicles, the battery technology is constantly improving every year. In the next decade it's just going to be phenomenal. So you've got to make sure that you've got these vehicles lasting for 10 to 20 years. Can you take the battery pack out, as Madani said, and set the new battery pack in? That has to be designed. Climate control, everything's electric, everything's digital, analog's being removed. Make sure you also look at the composites in terms of your buses. More and more composites are going to come and play. You're going to see less and less steel. Aluminium's there, but I think you'll see less and less as we move towards plastics and composites that will reduce weight. How do you design the bus stops, the configuration for charging? Do you use induction charging? Do you use a plug and play? All these things need to be taken into account. But let's picture LRT, very important part of the networks going forward. But picture buses that are electric, that are operating like LRT and can do exactly the same what an LRT does. There's no emissions, the noise is very silent, you don't have steel on steel. The future next decade is going to be phenomenal. It really will. And I think there's a disruption there to the light rail industry itself with these electric vehicles as they come forward over the next 2 decades. Solar panels, do you include them? At the moment, they're a bit too heavy for the energy you get out of the solar panels putting on vehicles, but that's still based on engineering design requirements. But can you use them on depots? Can you use them on infrastructure? Can you basically have a whole LRT that's got major infrastructure that's actually powering the whole thing through solar panels, completely carbon neutral, including the depots? Lightweight materials, talked about before, and your charging strategy is very, very important. And as currently with these buses, but a lot of government agencies are going, yep, let's throw these buses in. But as you know, people who optimise their networks very, very well will maximise the usage of diesel buses that interconnect and maybe change routes. A lot of routes aren't hard-coded depending on the frequency. When you put these electric vehicles in, you almost have to hard-code them to a particular route to allow for the charging stations in terms of the charging strategy. That does put inefficiencies in there. So whoever designs these sorts of routes have really got to have a good understanding operationally what they're doing, the impacts. Otherwise, governments will pay more. But in saying that, if it's about greening technology, then that's a whole different debate. Size of the Asian market. So how big is it? Well, let's have a look at the data that's coming through. The Asian market is going to go through massive growth in electric buses. Even if you take these forecasts, which sometimes I'm over-optimistic, I've seen it done before by economists, but even if it went half, that's huge growth over the next 5 to 10 years. Unbelievable growth. So looking at Asia is definitely leading the way. And there's lots of work done. You can see Malaysia's clear vision of using electric vehicles, and Singapore's talking about it, Thailand, Indonesia. You constantly get media watch alerts every day from what's going on in Asian electric vehicles, and there's about 10 articles every day from these countries about what the government policies are and the directions they're going. So it's massive growth there, which is fantastic. Now, in terms of the size of the market, currently it sits about 6.2 billion for electric vehicles. That's going to grow by 2020. To again, $33 billion. So people who aren't playing in this space, aren't thinking about it, are going to get left behind. As simple as that. The market is requiring it, the technology is pushing forth, our research partners are pushing forth, most of the big manufacturers are definitely pushing forth with electric vehicles, and it's coming. It's just a matter of what the technology will do and how we can integrate it with the mass transit market. But it's very exciting. Now, is e-bus the future? I'd argue in my short 10-minute presentation today, yes it is. And this is a great quote actually came across in Steve Jobs' autobiography. And I love it. basically, a great quote, he said, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. So here's a man who completely disrupted the transport market at the time everybody using horse and cart, and brought out this thing called the automobile industry. The same thing are we looking at with diesel buses. What do people currently want? Oh, I want, quieter bus, less emissions. But really, is it an e-bus that they need, not a quicker and more efficient diesel bus? And that's what we're kind of talking about now going forward. And just looking at this technology, and others will get into it too, but you're talking about automation. And that's another exciting aspect of this electric bus technology going forward. I was just watching on YouTube a couple of days ago, Tesla bringing out the latest vehicle, which has been out for about a year, but they did a software upgrade, which now has made their Tesla cars automated. Now, they don't call them fully automated. What you have is a passenger who sits there and basically sits behind the vehicle, and the car drives itself. Again, that was through a software upgrade. Now, have a think about that with buses going forward electric. And you've got a bus operating on the busway that's fully automated. It knows how to pull in, it knows how to pull out. It does it by recognising line markings on the road easily. The driver is a passive driver. So they talked about when I was over in the US for some presentations over there, they were talking about these buses going forward automated. There's two stages. The one is a passive stage where the driver sits behind the vehicle and is a passive driver. So we're there just in case, but also makes us feel comfortable that we're still in control, makes government regulators feel comfortable that somebody's behind there. But to go to the stage where it's fully automated, I'm sitting in the back seat of my car reading my iPad or reading the paper, that's going to take a complete trust in technology. So they're talking about a stepping stone. So picture an electric bus with the driver sitting there. What he does, he or she interacts with the customers with tickets, talks to them about where they want to go. The vehicle takes off. He doesn't do anything about it. The vehicle's looking ahead, scanning the road. The kid runs out. The vehicle pulls up. The driver at that point in time was talking to a passenger. Wouldn't have missed it. The vehicle pulls it up nicely. This technology is already here now. It's just a matter about the regulators will talk about it before, how we deal with it. And even our vehicle doesn't have any side mirrors on the side of it. It's all done via cameras. That's currently not compliant with Australian road rules. So we're going to work through a few things with the regulators as we're trying to take the technology next step forward. But it's very exciting. And just to, if you don't think electric vehicles are coming in combustion engines, I'm not saying they're going to disappear in the next couple of years, not at all. But Tesla's a great example of what they're doing. But there's another company come out in Silicon Valley or California now. It's spending $1 billion on a new plant. They're buying up a lot of the ex-Tesla engineers. I don't know if some of you saw this in the paper. Nobody knows who is behind this $1 billion automotive company. The talk is Apple. It's in Silicon Valley. It's going to be completely, so whatever company's coming out, it's going to come out in 2017 with a new vehicle that's fully electric, autonomous. They're also going to have a new ownership model attached to it. So this is all just being leaked slowly to the media, but the owners aren't mentioned. So when you got some people like Sir Richard Branson, Apple, Google, some of the world's biggest innovators getting behind e-vehicles, the future's here. Thank you.